Welcome, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Andrew Tobin. I'm a sales engineer here at Long. For those who are joining us again, welcome back to our coffee break series for newcomers. Glad you're here if we have some. Today, we're going to be talking with Sam Clemens with Arizon Companies. And in particular, Sam's going to give us a refresh or an introduction maybe to some of you on Johnson Air Rotation Systems. So Sam, why don't you go ahead and take it away? I think you're muted, Sam.
Sure thing. Good to be with everybody this morning. I think my timer had a little bit of a delay there. So we're going to have a quick overview of air rotation this morning. This is kind of like drinking through a fire hose on a very simple topic. What I maintain is that and submit that air rotation is one of the most underutilized mechanical systems out there for large open spaces. And just to give you a little overview of our company before we start here, Horizon is our parent, and then underneath are many different companies underneath that umbrella, but air rotation is what we're talking about today. And this is a solution for, as I mentioned, large open spaces. So think of this as a vertical air handling ductless platform for a myriad of applications. Our target space is typically that of, say, 15 to 20,000 square feet and larger. We do a lot in the industrial space, but I'll show you a couple examples, a number of them that are well outside of that realm. And we also have a product that I'll touch on here that is for smaller applications, a pre-engineered version of this core product of Johnson Air Rotation. So starting here, if you think 15 to 20,000 square feet and larger, I'll show you a couple examples of this that I hope will well illustrate what the heck we're talking about, maybe juxtapose from more traditional systems or what you've seen prior. One of my favorite examples of this is actually right outside of Houston here with, this is Daikin's facility. So this is one of the largest footprint facilities on the face of the earth at 4.2, it's actually 4.26 million square feet. And here they are manufacturing light commercial rooftop units, VRV systems, some residential products, and distributing them all from this central location. So you have this monstrous facility that's heated and cooled, that's making packaged rooftop units, but is using Johnson Air Rotation units to serve the bulk of the building. So one thing I point out, you can see this facility photo or the construction photo there on the bottom right. That big long section is the distribution side. And again, this is right outside of Houston. So getting a workforce here that in a building that's not conditioned is next to impossible. This is all heated and cooled. And first thing people note is that there's nothing up on the roof, right? So part of what we're talking about is bringing things down to grade. So instead of schlepping up an ungodly amount of filter boxes to maintain everything up on this roof, they now drive a maintenance golf cart around and slide filters in and out of the units that are against the wall, as you see here. This was new construction. We do quite a bit of that. And also in, we start getting into that space where you have more internal heat gain and generation. SKF is an example of where you kind of have, we often see a manufacturing side and then a warehouse side. And this building fell into that category. This started with conventional unitary on the roof, and the engineer of record said, hey, we've used these air rotation units before, we ought to consider that here. And we ended up shifting the design to 4 air rotation units throughout this 300,000 square foot building from many other pieces of unitary on the roof. Now, a notable design challenge on the manufacturing side was a lot of CNC milling and lathe operations that imparted a lot of oil mist and particulate into the air. So there are 2 units serving the manufacturing side, one here and one way in the back here. And these are loaded with oil mist elimination filters. So it pulls all of that oil and particulate out of the air before it hits a pleated media filter, and significantly improves the overall indoor air quality of that space. Now they got rid of a tremendous amount of structural steel required that would have been to serve rooftop equipment. They brought it all down to grade, far fewer pieces of equipment to then maintain and deal with. And they also got rid of parapet screening walls all the way around the building that were originally intended to hide the unitary equipment. I mentioned these are new construction. We do quite a bit of retrofit work. What we're seeing today is a significant shift in the market from a lot of these spaces that were traditionally heated and ventilated to needing cooling, primarily for employee retention. Sometimes it's product driven. But even here in the tropical oasis of Fargo, North Dakota, they were having these discussions of worker retention with unemployment as low as it has been. Competing for personnel has been top of mind for pretty much every industry around the country. So Integrity is a subsidiary here of Marvin. They make custom wood and vinyl and fiberglass window assemblies. There was a tremendous cloud of particulate that hung in this facility, and the people were hot, right? So originally they were going to put 40 some odd rooftop units on that space. And instead of that approach, they strategically located a handful of these aeration units around to holistically condition that whole building. So it turned out to be more cost effective. They were able to significantly streamline the number of pieces of equipment that they need. And it yielded a tremendous improvement to that indoor air quality of that space by holistically pulling all of that air back, continually scrubbing it and conditioning that volume. Local to the Denver area, this is an interesting one. This is not unlike what we see in many industrial applications, and it speaks to many value propositions with the rotation design. So originally here, they were going to put big pieces of unitary gear on this 90,000 square foot building to satisfy a 1,200 ton load. And instead of doing that, they got rid of all the ductwork, plunked in 8 aeration units strategically, and we were able to guarantee the temperature and humidity uniformity throughout. So this is not unlike what we see with food and beverage applications, temperature critical storage, precision manufacturing, where we need to hold very tight temperature profiles throughout an entire volume. Aeration is great for that. Again, because of the way these distribute and condition that volume, instead of spot introduction of hot and cold air, they holistically pull that whole volume back to the unit continually, trimming it to design condition, and you end up with a very even temperature profile throughout. These all fall into that industrial category. Where we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth, though, is outside of the warehouse and manufacturing and distribution, which is still a meat and potatoes category for us. But in the recreational world, there in Denver, the Broncos practice facility is actually conditioned by 2 Johnson air rotation units. These guys were preceded by the New York Giants. At some point, somebody looked at that and said, hey, these practice facilities look an awful lot like a big warehouse without racking inside of it. Wouldn't it be nice if we could get rid of the trunk lines that you typically see down these facilities with slot diffusers and HPLS fans or distributed equipment? And lo and behold, it works beautifully well. So all you see in that facility are a supply and a return, and that's it. Just those 2 units, heat and cool that whole space. And this whole market segment in the NCAA and NFL category has really exploded. Now you've got the Denver Bulldogs, University of Cincinnati, Jacksonville Jaguars, University of Houston, a lot of which I don't even have pictures of in here. Tampa Bay Bucks just did the Raiders. That was a pretty interesting one. They were practicing here for the Super Bowl. There's constant development, University of Texas, Texas A&M. There's been a paradigm shift in this market segment specifically, that this is kind of the gold standard of how these are done today. And that scales even to a more community level application, often to, either practice facilities, field houses, community level gyms, K through 12 gyms. You can get rid of the need for structure and roof penetrations and bring all of that down to grade. can greatly simplify the challenge of heating and cooling these bigger high bay applications. I mentioned the pre-engineered version of these guys. For smaller spaces, the air rotation units work great, but the economies didn't always work out in our favor there. So Johnson Light builds on what we've built for years with this ductless, high discharge, low return model, just doesn't use gas. So most often these are paired with heat pump, may it be VRF, VRV, or traditional air source or hydronic applications. But here's your 3 tonnages, and these can be 10, 12, or 14 feet tall. Very, very quiet and very unique offering within the HVAC market. On the design side, when we look at these spaces, we start with coverage, right? Where can we put equipment? What we most often see is probably a wall mount application for outside air access, but you can also have more centralized applications which have the advantage of more coverage, or they can be outside like you saw with the practice facilities. That's the most common location used there. And then once we've established coverage, we then tailor these modules, much like you do in a traditional modular air handler, but we do so in the vertical. You can see the capacities available here. These can get large, and that helps us consolidate the amount of equipment needed. So it's fairly common, just to give you a little benchmark, a single air rotation unit to serve 150,000 square feet on its own is pretty common. So if I don't know anything about a building, usually I start with about 1 unit per 100,000 square feet as a general benchmark of how many we're going to need. And then we work on that coverage and then tailor what's required within the building, the units to serve that space. The question then that always follows is, this is a great idea, but how does the cost stack up? And compared to conventional unitary on an equipment basis, we typically lose that discussion point as far as first cost. But to put that stuff in the building and install it requires many other sub-trade efforts. So if we can bring things off the roof, that's going to have significant structural steel reduction. If you can consolidate the amount of equipment, that's going to consolidate your electrical requirements considerably. If you can get rid of all the equipment on the roof and all of the parapet screening walls required, sometimes there's architectural reduction. And lastly, the mechanical effort to stack these things up, get a single point of power, shoot air out the top, suck it in at the bottom, holistically condition the space, streamlines the mechanical effort quite a bit as well. So what you have again is a vertical air handling platform that's ductless in its distribution. That's really the differentiating factor on the rotation concept. Serves big open areas exceedingly well and is a very flexible solution that can incorporate just about any requirement for HVAC needs in a myriad of applications. So we got a whole group of engineers to help support your efforts. If we can ever be a resource, if you want to bounce these ideas off of us, happy to brainstorm with you. So utilize that would be my suggestion. These gifts are just spectacular here.
Sam, as usual, that was very well presented. Thank you very much. And to all of you, if you have a potential application or even think this might be a good fit for you, please reach out to your long sales engineer. We're more than happy to help. These are really great systems when they're applied properly. Join us next week. Mr. Luis Gutierrez is going to be presenting the new Valant indoor air handling unit, and looking forward to hearing about that because it's also got energy recovery with it. So join us next week, same time, same place, 10 o'clock Thursday. We look forward to seeing you. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Take care.